Hello everyone, welcome back to Pabbly. In this video, we're going to learn how to create wave invoice on Tally form submission. So I am an owner of a digital marketing agency and using Tally, I have created a form. With the help of it, I collect my clients' inquiries related to the services and the pricing of the services that I provide. Here what I want is that as soon as by any of the client, a new form submission is going to be done using Tally, they're going to raise an inquiry for the services pricing that I provide for the specific service. What I want is according to the service that they have selected, I want to create an invoice in my Wave account. Now doing this manually is very time consuming. So what I've done is I've simply automated this entire process with the help of Pabbly Connect, which is an amazing automation and integration software. And here in this automation, I'm going to build a connection between Tally and Wave with the help of it. So if you also want to learn about this amazing automation process step by step, for that let me take you to my screen. In this video, we're going to learn how to create Wave invoice on Tally forms submission. So as an owner of a digital marketing agency, I use Tally forms to collect inquiries from my potential clients about pricing and services. And I use Wave to create invoices, ensuring all the financial transactions are professionally documented and are easily accessible. With the help of this automation, whenever any of the clients submits a form with the help of Tally forms, an invoice for the service that they have selected is automatically been created in my Wave account. This keeps my workflow smooth and ensures that every inquiry is efficiently followed up with necessary documentation. And I'm going to create this amazing automation between Tally forms and Wave with the help of Pabbly Connect. So on the screen, you can see the website of Pabbly Connect, that is pabbly.com/connect. After browsing this website, we need to sign into our Pabbly Connect account. But if you're a new user, you can sign up for free and get 100 free tasks every month. So as I'm an existing user, I'm going to sign into my Pabbly Connect account. After signing in, you can see the all Pabbly apps turned in front of you, in which you can see all the applications that Pabbly provides, from which we are going to select Pabbly Connect by clicking on this Access Now button right here. Then Pabbly Connect's dashboard is going to appear in front of you. In order to start an automation process in Pabbly Connect, we need to create a workflow. For that, click on this top right corner button right here that says Create Workflow. A dialog box is then going to appear in front of you, which is asking for the workflow name and for us to select a folder. So for the name of my workflow over here, I'm going to give it as Create Wave Invoice on Tally Form Submission. So this is the name that I want to give to my workflow, okay? After that, over here, it is asking for us to select a folder. So on the left side of my screen, you can see I have created multiple folders in my Pabbly Connect account, from which I'm going to select a specific folder in which I want to save this workflow in. For that, click on this drop down. These are the folders from which I'm going to select Tally Forms Automations as the folder I want to save this workflow in. After giving the name to the workflow and selecting the folder, I'm going to click on this Create button in order to create a workflow. A workflow is created in the name of Create Wave Invoice on Tally Form Submissions, and you can see there are two windows in front of you. One says Trigger, other says Action. So what is Trigger and Action? Trigger and Action are the two most important steps of our automation process because our process depends on these two concepts. Over here, Trigger says when this happens and Action says do this. That means what is Action? Action is a response towards our trigger. In an automation process, there can be only one trigger step but multiple action steps. We are going to set up our trigger step first. And for the trigger application over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it as Tally. As with the help of Tally, I have created a form with the help of which I am collecting my clients' inquiries related to the services that they are interested in. I want that as soon as many of the clients, a new form submission is going to be done using Tally, I want Pabbly Connect should capture the response of that. And that is why for my trigger application, I have selected it as Tally. And for the trigger event, I'm going to select it as New Response. After selecting the trigger application and the event, you can see that Pabbly Connect has provided us with a webhook URL. Using this unique webhook URL, we are going to build the connection between Tally Forms and Pabbly Connect by following the steps given here below in the help desk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first simply copy the URL from here. After copying the URL, I want to connect this form that I've created using Tally to Pabbly Connect. So I'm going to open the form in my Tally account that is in the name of Client Inquiry Form. As I want to connect this form to Pabbly Connect, next to this preview button, this is the settings. Go to the settings of this form right here. As you go to land towards the setting of this form, go to integrations option from the panel. Over here, if I'm going to scroll down, there is an option in the name of webhooks. Click on this connect button under webhooks. As we're going to do that, it is asking for the endpoint URL. Now in this field, I'm going to paste the webhook URL that Pabbly Connect has provided us. And then I'm going to click on this connect button right here. As I'm going to do that, you can see webhook URL has now been added to the form that I've created using Tally. As now the webhook URL is added, I'm going to go back to my workflow and scroll down. It is saying waiting for webhook response. So now to check whether Tally Forms has now been successfully connected to Pabbly Connect or not, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do the test form submission of the form that I've created with the help of Tally. And after doing the test submission, I'm going to check whether Pabbly Connect captures a response of the test submission being done or not. As the response that I want to capture over here in the trigger should be a simple response. For that, I'm going to toggle this button on right here next to simple response. Okay. So now for doing the test submission, I'm going to open the form. This is the form. I'm going to click on the share button right over here. This is the link of the form. I'm going to copy it over here and I'm going to open it in a new tab right here. So this is the form. Now let's do the test submission. For the first name over here, I'm going to write it as new. For the last name over here, I'm going to write it as lead34. For the email over here, I'm going to write it as newlead34@pabblytudes.com. For the phone number over here, I'm going to write in a dummy mobile number. And for the company name over here, I'm going to write in a company name as ABCD Company. For the service over here, I'm going to select the services. These are the 3 services that I provide. I am interested in web development. So I'm going to select this service right here. After filling in all the required details, I'm going to click on this submit button. As I've done that, it says thanks for completing this form. As now the form submission is done using Tally, I'm going to open my workflow and scroll down. And yes, you can see right over here, Pabbly Connect has captured the response of the form submission. First name over here comes as new, last name comes as lead34, email as newlead34@pabblytudes.com with a dummy mobile number, company name as ABCD Company, and the service inquiry for web development. As now the response of the form submission has been captured in our trigger, this means that Tally Forms has now been successfully connected to Pabbly Connect and our trigger setup is done. As now our trigger setup is done, we need to set up our action step. My objective is that as soon as by the client a form submission is going to be done using Tally and they are going to raise an inquiry for the service that they're interested in and they want to know the pricing, I want that according to the service that they have selected, I want to create an invoice in my Wave account. Now, for creating invoice in our Wave account, we need to check whether the client who have done the form submission using Tally is an existing customer in our Wave account, or we have to first create that client as a customer in our Wave account and then only we can create an invoice. For creating invoices in our Wave account, it is very important for the client who have done the form submission to be an existing customer in our Wave account. Okay, so there can be only 2 situations. One can be the person who have done the form submission can be an existing customer. Other is we are going to first create the customer in our Wave account and then we are going to create the invoice for that client who have raised the inquiry. Okay. So now to check whether this person who have done the form submission using Tally is an existing customer in our Wave account or not. Okay, we have to check this now. Now for checking it, what we are going to do is we are going to set up our action step, for which I'm going to select my action application over here as Wave. And for the action event over here, I'm going to select it as get customer by email. Now I'm going to select this action event. With the help of email, we're going to check whether there is an existing customer in our Wave account of this person who have done the form submission or not. Okay. And then I'm going to click on this connect button right here. A window is going to appear in front of you, on which click on add new connection, or else you can select the existing connection that you have. After that, click on connect with Wave. As I'm going to do that, a window is then going to appear in front of you, which is asking for a permission. So I'm going to click on this allow access button. As this is see, present my data is perfectly saved with Pabbly Connect. So I'm going to click on this allow button right here. As I've done that, you can see it's fully authorized Wave to Pabbly Connect. After connecting over here, it is asking for us to select a business. So we have created a business in the name of Pabbly. So I'm going to select my business over here as Pabbly. Okay, you need to select the business that the customer belongs to. Okay. After that, it is asking for the customer email. With the help of the email, as we are getting the customer details, so you have to enter the data of the email. So for entering the data, we are going to map the data. Mapping means inserting data from the previous step. So we're going to insert the data from the previous step of this workflow. How it works is that as soon as I'm going to click on this field, this was the previous response. And as I want to search this client have done the form submission and the previous response as a customer in our Wave account. So for the data of this email field, I'm going to select the data of the email of my client from my previous response. As I've selected the data from my previous response, the data is mapped. And as I've mapped the data has now become dynamic. That means now whenever a new response is going to be captured in our previous step, automatically the new data is going to be updated in place of this mapped data. After entering the email, I'm going to click on this Save and Send Test Request button right here. And as I'm going to do that, you can see over here we've received a response, and this response comes when the customer is an existing customer in our Wave account. As we have received the customer ID, you can see right here. This is a customer ID. This means that this is an existing customer in our Wave account. So let us tally the response further right here. The name of the customer is newlead34. Over here, this is the email, that is newlead34@pabblytuts.com. This is the mobile number. This is the address of the customer as well. 12 new city. City as Bhopal. State as Madhya Pradesh. Country as India. Postal code you can see right over here. And this is all the details right here. Okay. As now we have received the response of the customer. Now in this situation, what happens is if it's an existing customer in our Wave account, we can just directly create an invoice in our Wave account. But as we have two situations, one is if the client does a form submission and if they are an existing customer, we are going to directly create the invoice in our Wave account. But if the client have done the form submission is a new customer, so first we are going to create that customer in our Wave account, and then we are going to create the invoice for that same customer. Okay. Now for setting up these two conditions, we have to add another action step. And for conditionally running this workflow, you have to select our action application as router by Pabbly. As with the help of router, you can conditionally run the workflow according to your requirement. And for the action event, I'm going to select as conditionally run. And then I'm going to click on this connect button. As you're going to do that, you are going to see the routes. Okay. There are two routes you can see right over here, and we can set up as many routes as you can right over here according to your requirement. Okay. First, let us set up the routes. I'm going to delete them right here. First route is going to be what? If the customer is an existing customer. So we're going to directly create the invoice. So now let us set up this route. And firstly, as we're going to click on set up filter and action, over here we have to first set up the filter. Now over here my objective is that if the customer is an existing customer, then we should directly create the invoice for that. Now for knowing whether the customer is an existing customer or not, we have to first set up this filter. Over for the select label, I'm going to select this customer ID right here. We are going to only receive this customer ID at a situation when the customer is an existing customer. So I'm going to select this customer ID right here. And for the filter type, I'm going to select it as exist. Now, whenever this customer ID is going to exist in our previous response, then only this route one is going to be executed. So I'm going to click on the save and send test request button. It comes as success and condition is true. Okay. So now as the filter setup is done, as now the customer already exists, we have to create the invoice for that customer in our Wave account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select over here my action application as Wave, and for the action event, I'm going to select it as create invoice with basic details, and then I'm going to click on this connect button. A window is going to appear in front of you, and as I have the existing connection, so I'm going to select this option, but if you want, you can add a new connection. I'm going to click on this save button next. After that, over firstly, it is asking for us to select the business, which is going to be Pabbly. So I'm going to select the business right here. It is asking for the customer ID, for which customer do we want to create the invoice for. I want to create the invoice for the customer. I've done the form submission using Tally, and we have to enter the customer ID right here. Now for entering the customer ID, toggle the map button on, erase the existing data from here, and over here in place of this customer ID field, map the data of the customer ID that you have received in your previous response where you're getting the customer details. Okay. So we have mapped the data of the customer ID right away in this field. Now after that, over here it is asking for the product, for which product do we want to create the invoice in. Now over here in my form that I've created using Tally, I have given 3 options of my products, that is search engine optimization, social media marketing, and web development. Now for any of these 3, I want to create the invoice in according to the service that my client selects. So we have to enter the data of that same product that our client chooses in place of this product field right here. So for the data of this field, we are going to map the data again. Okay. And how we're going to map it? We are going to map the product ID in place of this drop down. And how we can have the product ID? So this is the first product, that is web development. You can see right over here. To have the ID of this product, toggle this map button on, and this is the ID of the product. Copy this from here. Okay, so this is the product ID of web development. In the similar manner, you can get all the IDs for all the different products that you have created over here in your Wave account. Okay, so now as we have the ID, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, and now what we are going to do is we are going to enter a lookup table. As now, according to the service that my client selects, we have to create an invoice. Now for having the product ID according to the service, we have to enter another action step, in which for the action application we are going to select as lookup table, and for the action event also I'm going to select as lookup table right here. The lookup key is going to be the service that my client selects, that is web development. Now according to the service we want the ID. Okay, so for the label over here I'm going to select it as web development. Okay, this is the label right over here, and the value is going to be the ID that we have copied from our previous response. Okay, from our next step. So now what is going to happen, according to the lookup key that my client selects, that I've mapped right over here, from this lookup table that we have created, the value, the product ID is going to be fetched out. Okay, now we're going to add more of the product ID values right over here. We have to enter the product name and the value. So I'm going to enter all the products and their product IDs right here. So I've entered the data of the product IDs of all my products that I'm selling. That is web development. This is the ID. Search engine optimization. That is the other service. This is the ID. Social media marketing. This is the ID of this product. Okay. As now over here we've entered all the details right over here. I'm going to click on the save and send test request button. Now as per the service that my client selected, you can see we have received the product ID for that service, that was web development. Okay, as now I've received the product ID right here, I'm going to rename this step. As with the help of the step, I am receiving the product ID, so I'm going to give this step a name of product ID right here. Okay, so now as we have the product ID, what I'm going to do is I'm going to again go to this root one that I've set up. And now what I'm going to do is, in place of this product, I'm going to toggle this map button on, remove the existing data from here. And now in place of this product, I'm going to map the data of this product ID that I've received from my lookup table step. Okay. After that, it is required field, that is the item description and the price. Now we are going to fetch the data of the item description and the price in the similar manner that we have fetched the data of the product ID. So I'm going to close this step. We are going to add another step to this workflow, and for the action application over here, I'm going to again select it as lookup table, and for the action event, I'm going to similarly set up. Okay. For the lookup key, we are looking for the product description first. For the lookup key over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to map the data of the service that my client has selected. Now we're going to enter the value of the label and the value of our product description. We are looking for the item description. So now we're going to enter the details right here. So I've entered the data of the product name and the description of that same product right here. Now I'm going to click on the save and send test request button. As I'm going to do that for the service that my client has selected, that is web development, this is the item description of that product right here. As we have received the description of our product, I'm going to rename the step. As with the help of the step, we are receiving the product description. So over here, I'm going to write it as product description. I'm going to update this step from here. Okay. As now I've received the product description, I want the product's price as well. So now we're going to set up another action step. For the action application over here, I'm going to again select it as lookup table. Action event as lookup table. I'm going to click on this connect button right here. Lookup key is going to be the service that my client has selected. Now we're going to enter the data of the service as well as the price of the service right here. So I'm going to enter all the data right here. So I've entered the name of the service as well as the price right here. I'm going to click on the save and send test request button again. Now for the service that my client selected, this is the product price. So now I'm going to rename the step from here. As with the help of the step, we are going to receive the product price. So I'm going to write over here as product price. Okay, I'm going to update the step. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this route that I'm setting up right here. Now for the item description, I'm going to enter the product description that we have received. For the item price, we have received the item price. You can see right over here. I'm going to map the data. Quantity is going to be 1 as this is a service right here. Currency, I use it as INR. So I'm going to select as INR. For the invoice title, I want it as new invoice, and I want the name of the lead, first name space the last name. Okay. After that, for the invoice status, I'm going to select it as saved right here. It is asking for all these details which I do not require. So I'm going to simply skip the part. Okay. And then simply I'm going to click on the save and send test request button right here. As I've done that, we have received a response in which we have received the invoice ID, which is a positive response. So now I'm going to open my Wave account to check whether a new invoice has been created in it or not. For that, I'm going to open my Wave account. So this is my Wave account, and now I'm going to check whether the invoice is created. And yes, you can see right over here an invoice has been successfully created in my Wave account. I'm going to open this invoice from here. If I'm going to scroll down, the invoice is for new lead 34. It says new invoice, new lead 34. You can see right here. This is the address and all the details of the lead. You can see right over here. And over here, this is the product that my lead has selected. That was web development. This is description of the product. Quantity is 1. This is the price, and this is the total amount you can see right over here. As now the invoice is successfully created in my Wave account, our route 1 for the existing customer is now been set up. So I'm going to close this step. As now route 1 is set up for the existing customer, I'm going to rename this step and it is going to be existing customer. Okay, I'm going to update the name. Okay. As now route 1 setup of the existing customer is done, my second situation was that if the client have done the form submission using Tally, is a new customer. So now I'm going to simply clone this first route from here. I'm going to clone it. I'm going to rename the step from here and it is going to be new customer. Okay. So now I'm going to set up this step right over here. Now for the filter, what is going to happen that when this customer ID that we've selected for the select label does not exist, then this route 2 should be executed. Okay. And over here, before telling you this, you can see the filter and the wave setup has already been done here because I have cloned this route from this first route right over here. That is why over here, if I'm going to click on it, you can see both of the setup has now been already done. Okay. So when this customer ID does not exist, then this filter setup should be then this route 1 should be executed. If I'm going to click on the save and send test request button right here, the status comes as error and the condition is going to come as false. And now why this is right over here? It's because this customer ID does exist, and over here we have selected the filter type as does not exist, which is not true. So that is why it comes as condition is false. Okay. So now as the filter setup is done, what I want is I want to create this client who have done the form submission as a customer first in my Wave account, as this for the new customer route right over here. And then for that customer, I want to create the invoice in. Now, if I'm going to go back over here, you can see over here in this Tally, we have received the response of the customer right here. And this customer was an existing customer. So we cannot recreate this customer right here. So what we are going to do is we are going to simply recapture the response right here. We are going to capture the response of a new form submission. And now we're going to enter the details of the customer, which is not an existing customer in my Wave account. Now I'm going to open the form. This is the form. I'm going to share this form again from here. Copy it from here, open it in a new tab right here. So this is the form. I'm going to fill in all the required details. As you can see, I filled in the details. First name is dummy, last name is user, email is dummyuser4444@pabblytudes.com, and dummy mobile number, company as exact company, and the service interested in our search engine optimization. I'm going to click on this submit button right here. As now the form submission is done, I'm going to go back to my workflow and scroll down. You can see right over here the response of the new form submission has been captured. This is the response you can see right here. Okay. As the response is captured, now I want to create this person who have done the form submission as a customer in this step right over here. Okay. So I'm going to open the second route. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create this client who have done the form submission as a customer in our Wave account. Now for that, I'm going to set up my action step, in which for the action application, I'm going to select as Wave. And for the action event, I'm going to select as create a customer. Then I'm going to click on this connect button. I've selected the existing connection. If you want, you can add a new connection. I'm going to click on the save button right here. For the business, I'm going to select the business. It's asking for the business name or the customer name. For the customer name, I'm going to map the data of the new customer that I've received. First name, I'm going to map the data of the first name of my customer right here. Last name, I'm going to map the data of the last name right here. Email over here, I'm going to map the data of the email over here. For the phone number, and that's the mobile number, I'm going to map the data of the mobile number. For this phone number, I'm going to map the data of the same phone number right here. It is asking for all these details which I do not require, so I'm going to skip the part. Currency, I'm going to write it as INR. I don't require all these fields, so I'm going to skip the part right here. And then simply I'm going to click on the Save and Send Test Request button. As I'm going to do that, we have received the customer ID. Now using this ID, we are going to create the invoice for this customer that we have created just now in our Wave account. Now for that, I'm going to make some changes in this third step right over here. Now in place of this customer ID that we have received, we are going to map the data of this customer ID that we have just now created right here. Okay. Now, after entering the customer ID, I do not want to make any changes of any of these steps right here. I'm going to simply click on the Save and Send Test Request button right here. And as I'm going to do that, you can see I've received the invoice ID, which is a positive response. So now I'm going to open my Wave account again. I'm going to go back to the invoices page right here. And you can see another invoice has been created in my Wave account, and the invoice that is created is for dummy user with the email as dummy user 4444@pabblytudes.com with a number and all the other details. Product name comes as search engine optimization. This is the description of the product. Quantity as 1. This is the amount. This is the total amount. As the invoice for the new customer is also been created in our Wave account, this means our route to for the new customer is already been set up. So I'm going to close this step from here. So now for both of the conditions, as now over here the router is successfully set up, this means now this workflow that we have created is successfully running. Now whenever by any of the clients a form submission is going to be done using Tally, automatically for that client an invoice is going to be created in my Wave account according to the service that they have selected. And this is how you create this connection between Tally and Wave with Pabbly Connect. So this was it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Not just with these applications, you can create automation between multiple other applications with the help of Pabbly Connect. If you have any questions, you can contact us on support@pabbly.com. If you have any queries, you can check the queries on forum.pabbly.com. And if you have any pricing related issues, then you can check out this link. If you like this video, please do subscribe to our channel, hit on the like button, comment on if you have any questions or doubts, and please share this video.